Now at 9, we're going to have a look at road conditions throughout the area and how crews are treating them.
The IRS is bracing for more challenges this tax filing season, and now lawmakers want answers. I'm Mather Rivera in Washington with what they say has to change coming up.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Jordan. I'll be cold night tonight after some ice and snow earlier today. Let's check in with Chief Meteorologist Doug Heddy. Doug?
Yeah, we got this system out of here, but we do have to deal with the cold temperatures as we go through the overnight hours for us tonight. 58 was our high. That was at midnight. Of course, we dropped from that point on all the way through the 50s, 40s, 30s, down into the 20s and then teens. Southern counties, no snow. And then as you got closer to the I-44 corridor near a dusting, we did get some freezing rain. We got about 1/4 of an inch of freezing rain. And then heavier amounts once you get through southeastern Kansas up toward Nevada. And then our northern counties got a swath of 4 to 7 inches of snow. You can see that back band kind of rotating through during the afternoon hours. Now we look okay. Clouds have been breaking up, so pretty much clear skies as we go through the rest of the overnight hours. But it gets cold tonight. We're going to look at that here in just a bit.
All right, Doug, as you were just pointing out, in our viewing area, the road conditions generally get worse the farther north and west you travel. KOAM's Bronte Sorotsky spoke with the emergency managers in Labette County and Allen County, Kansas, and has more on how they and their workers worked to keep drivers safe.
Road conditions in southeast Kansas weren't great for anyone out on the roads, and they got worse the more you headed north.
Yeah, the roads aren't very good right now. If you don't need to be out, please don't.
Charles Morris, Emergency Management Director for Labette County, says they saw a few accidents relating to this weather.
We had a 2-car non-injury accident south of town here. We have a semi-jackknife somewhere out around the Neosho River Bridge on 400 Highway. And then we had a limb come down, we assumed due to ice. Took the power service out to a house.
Over in Allen County, their emergency manager says they have had some slide-offs, but no reported injuries.
We have had a few minor incidents where people have slidden off the road, but no collisions where anybody's gotten hurt. Some people have gotten stuck just on the side of the road, but nothing major.
He credits it to many people staying off the roads and staying safe.
A lot of people are just staying home, and that is what we recommend, just to stay off the roads.
But when people do need to be on the road in conditions similar to those on Thursday, Morse has some tips to stay safe.
If you can cancel it or postpone it, please do. If you do go out, make sure your phone's charged, extra water, extra blankets. Give the road crews, the county and city and state, give the guys time to get their job done, get the roads cleared and stuff down. With it turning cold like it is, it's going to be tough for them to get everything done in a timely manner before the cold weather gets here.
And in the end, it's safer to just stay home. In Labette and Allen counties, Bronte Sorotsky, KOAM News.
Another tip both emergency managers have is to plan ahead amid incoming winter weather. Priscilla Peterson with KDOT says the heavy rain ahead of the wintry weather made it impossible to pre-treat the roads. Although crews are working to keep roads clear, Peterson says the variety of winter precipitation makes driving more hazardous.
It was rain going into freezing rain, going into sleet, going into snow. So it's just something that you have to monitor. And if you're out driving, you have to be really, really careful and slow down.
Peterson says in areas that didn't see much snow, drivers need to be especially cautious because it might be hard to see that ice. It was mostly sleet and freezing rain with snow earlier today in the northern counties of Missouri. In the southern counties, it was a mix of freezing rain, sleet, and flooded roads. Another concern is the dropping temperatures, as Doug was talking about tonight, through the night, leading to refreezing.
As we convert ice, it converts to water, and we're going to try to dry these roads up, but we're still experiencing some precip, and up until as the temperatures drop, that refreeze is a real possibility. So give yourself plenty of time. Certainly don't speed, don't use your cruise control, and be careful.
Campbell says they've had to close roads in the southern portion of the district because of flooding concerns, but they have not closed roads because of snow or ice. This is what some roads looked like in the St. Louis area this morning. Some neighborhoods flooded, created a commuter nightmare. One man says he already saw a driver get stuck in flooded waters. Well, the U.S. Department of Justice is suing Missouri over a new law banning local police from enforcing federal gun laws. U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland says the state law impedes criminal law enforcement in Missouri, and the federal government contends states can't declare federal laws invalid. But Missouri's Attorney General sees it differently. Republican Eric Schmidt says the Justice Department pulled out of a crime-fighting partnership because of the law, and Schmidt says the law is on Missouri's side. IRS continues to deal with a number of issues this tax filing season. Jammed phone lines where customers wait hours to speak with someone, and delays with tax refunds being paid out. Today on Capitol Hill, senators held a hearing with top officials about some of those challenges. Fox's Madeline Rivera has more details now from D.C.
If you're looking to get a timely tax refund, prepare for some bumps ahead. Millions of people are still waiting for refund checks from previous returns, even as they prepare for this tax season.
Americans deserve better. Our citizens deserve a responsive and respectful tax administration.
Last year, the IRS received 120 million calls during filing season, but it was only able to answer fewer than 20%.
An unprecedented increase in calls resulted in a low level of customer service overall.
Faced with fewer employees, a lack of stable funding, and unprecedented challenges from the pandemic, the IRS is gearing up for another tough year. In a new letter, House Republicans called on the IRS to make sure Americans receive refunds in a timely manner. But some say Congress must step in.
This is something that needs to be addressed by Congress, and hopefully they're going to act.
During a Senate Finance Committee hearing Thursday, Chairman Senator Ron Wyden blamed years-long budget cuts that have hampered the IRS.
The cuts that have hurt customer service and enforcement against cheats started more than a decade ago.
Others pointed to outdated technology, saying an update is long overdue.
We need their long-term plan, we need their short-term plan, and we got to fund it.
To ensure a smoother filing process, the IRS recommends electronically filing with direct deposit to avoid processing delays. Taxpayers should also pay extra attention if they received economic impact statements or an advanced child tax credit last year. In Washington, Madeline Rivera, Fox News.
CDC facing renewed pressure to alter its mask recommendations. This as face coverings become optional in more states. Fox News correspondent Jillian Turner has more.
COVID-19 hospitalizations are plummeting across the U.S. and new infections are down too. According to Johns Hopkins, the 7-day average for new cases stands at 136,000. That's down from about 453,000 just 2 weeks ago. As the Omicron surge subsides now, public health officials are preparing to transition the country from what they call the pandemic phase to the endemic. Dr. Anthony Fauci, though, says how and when that transition happens is still very much up for debate.
You don't want to be reckless and throw everything aside. What's the balance? Really being strict to prevent any kind of infection or the negative impact on society of being too restrictive.
Over the last week, governors in about a dozen states and the mayor of Washington, D.C. announced an end to statewide masking policies, as well as other restrictions. On Wednesday, Virginia's Governor Glenn Youngkin signed a new law giving parents the power to let their kids opt out of school mask mandates as well.
People who want to wear a mask, please wear one, please. And for folks that believe that for their children the right thing is not to wear one, then you have a right today in Virginia to make that decision.
The CDC now facing increased pressure to revise its own mask guidelines. The agency had signaled that could be soon, but says it'll take into account community transmission and hospitalization rates.
Moving from this pandemic will be a process led by science and epidemiologic trends, and one that relies on the powerful tools we already have.
The CDC continues to recommend wearing face coverings in areas with high transmission rates. In Washington, Jillian Turner, Fox News.
KOAM News at 9 on Fox 14 takes this time now to honor another four-state hero. Edsel Sparkman served the U.S. Army from 1942 to 45. Here are just several awards, being stationed various places overseas. And we are proud to thank and salute Tech Sergeant Edsel Sparkman. He's tonight's four-state hero. Doug Katie's next with a complete look at the forecast. And a bit later, Pitt State men's track and field climbing to #1 in the national rankings. Going to hear from the team in sports.
Well, it turned out to be a nasty day for us today as we got the freezing rain, sleet, and snow. We actually had quite a bit of ice across the region. A lot of freezing rain prior to the sleet, and then we had thunder sleet in a lot of locations. And then a little bit of snow on top, but it was a wide range across the region. Southern counties, mainly just rain and really hardly any wintry weather south of Interstate 44. And then the freezing rain, sleet, and snow really picked up in that 2 to 4 range, kind of from Parsons over to north of Pittsburgh over toward Nevada, and then Chanute, Iola, Humboldt, Yates Center. Those were the areas that were 4 inches plus, and then the heaviest stripe really from Wichita, Emporia, and then right through Kansas City where they approached 10 inches of snow. Now we got to deal with the cold. Temperatures for us today, we dropped into the 20s, and then now we're dropping into the teens. Look at our northern counties. See how cold it's getting so fast? That's where that thick snowpack is, and then where there's no snowpack or very little, we're holding into the upper teens. But our northern counties are going to drop near zero later on tonight, so it is going to be cold. We still have the northerly wind, thankfully starting to calm down, just a north wind at about 5 miles per hour or so. Currently outside, sitting at 18. West winds at about 3, humidity is sitting at about 81%. And you can see the snow showers rotating out of here during the afternoon hours. Now the clouds have been breaking up. Started with thunderstorms. We had some strong thunderstorms, heavy amounts of rain last night, the freezing rain, the sleet, the snow, the dry slot, the back band that rotated through during the afternoon hours. We look good now, so we don't have to worry about this system, which is racing away from us out to the west. Not a whole bunch going on, so that's our weather as we go through the next few days. We'll start to warm things back up. Really cold tonight. Look at our northern counties. So approaching zero, and then we'll stay into the teens where there's not much of a snowpack. As we go into the daytime hours tomorrow, I think most of us go into lower 40s. The thicker snowpack, you're going to stay into the 30s. Here's your day planner. Starting at 9, 34 by noon, high temp 41, south winds at about 5 to 15. Tomorrow night, not as cold, still cold though. We drop back into the 20s, and then on Saturday, we're going to go into the mid 40s, 4 highs, which is pretty good, and then we go even warmer. By Sunday, we shoot into the 60s. We have 2 storm systems next week. First one, Monday, could give us some showers and thunderstorms late in the day. This blows on by. Tuesday, we're okay. Wednesday, we get a wave that comes in really just south of us, and then chances for freezing rain, sleet, and snow again 1 week from today. Another one the following week. So we got 2 potential big storms still that we have to watch. All right, 41 for us tomorrow, 46 Saturday, 63 on Sunday, near 70 on Monday.
10 inches of snow in KC.
Yeah, they got walloped.
No kidding.
Yeah.
All right, man, we'll see you in a little bit. Thanks so much. Coming up, more writing on the wall.
The Secretary of State warned other world leaders Russia is laying the groundwork for an invasion. I'm Lauren Blanchard in Washington with the latest on this developing story coming up.
And at the top, the government agency in charge of air safety is resigning. Federal Aviation Administration head Steve Dixon announcing he's going to step down as the top U.S. air safety regulator. Dixon was appointed to a 5-year term back in 2019, taking over in the midst of a scandal with Boeing's 737 MAX jets. He leaves as the airline industry deals with worsening passenger behavior, which is described in a PSA by the FAA. A former senior executive at Delta Airlines, Dixon said he was stepping down to devote his attention to his family. His resignation takes effect at the end of March. More of this. It's been a rough start to the year for the airline industry as poor passenger behavior continues. The FAA has received hundreds of reports of unruly passenger behavior just a few weeks into the new year. A majority of the reports have been related to, you want to guess, face masks. So far, the FAA has opened 123 investigations as Republicans in Congress push back against a federal no-fly list for violent passengers. Airline executives have been lobbying Congress for a universal list to prevent wrongdoers from causing trouble on one airline and using another when they are banned. Secretary of State went to the UN Security Council to warn of a very possible Russian invasion of Ukraine, laying out all the ways U.S. intelligence says it could happen, but also to offer yet again an off-ramp to the increased tensions. Fox News correspondent Lauren Blanchard is in Washington with more.
We've been clear, along with allies and partners, that our response will be sharp and decisive.
As the situation in Eastern Europe continues to grow worse, Thursday, Moscow expelled America's #2 ambassador. The State Department says it is considering a response. Meanwhile, Secretary Antony Blinken went to the United Nations Security Council.
I am here today not to start a war, but to prevent one.
He warned Russia will likely use a false flag as justification to invade Ukraine.
Russian media has already begun to spread some of these false alarms.
Already, there has been shelling in eastern Ukraine with injuries reported. President Biden says he believes an invasion could come in days.
I sense this will happen within the next several days.
Earlier this week, tensions appeared to be easing when Russia said they were ready to talk. But rather than their promised drawback of troops, thousands more units have amassed at the Ukrainian border.
Russia can still take the path of diplomacy. They can de-escalate.
Russia says it's actually Ukraine who is the aggressor and is leading the shelling attacks.
There is an exchange of fire ongoing, and the first attacks came from the Ukrainian side.
Russia will attempt to create various situations to put responsibility on Ukraine, but we are well prepared for any scenario.
President Biden says he does not have plans to talk with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Meanwhile, Vice President Kamala Harris is leading the U.S. delegation to a security conference in Germany. In Washington, Lauren Blanchard, Fox News.
She'll had a look at the ongoing effort to show man's best friend how much of a best friend he really is. Number of Americans filing for unemployment benefits unexpectedly, rising last week for the first time in the last month. Figures released by the Labor Department showing that applications last week rose to 248,000, and numbers were expected to be around 219,000. Claims for those receiving unemployment on a continued basis decreasing by 26,000 to 1.59 million. Walmart out with its quarterly report card, and it beat expectations. The world's biggest retailer saying profit topped $3.5 billion on sales of more than $152 billion. It's the first of the retailers to report, and its results are looked to as a yardstick for how the industry is faring in an inflationary climate. I've said this before, I love dogs. You can look them right in the eye, and you can talk to each other, right? But even I think this is a little bit over the top. Dogs are getting the opportunity to live in houses that are on the cutting edge of design. Fox's Ty Brennan reports now from Scottsdale, Arizona.
From cantilevered ceilings to plush furnishings, these are some of the plushest dog houses you'll ever see.
This year we have 12 local teams of designers and architects that have partnered together to create unique dog houses that will be up for bid the night of the event.
These dog houses will be auctioned off next Friday as part of the 8th annual Design for Dogs event in partnership with Facings of America. All the money raised will go help the Arizona Animal Welfare League.
Our rural rescue efforts, our adoptions, our low-cost community clinic, and vaccine clinics.
This father and son team from KQ Architects figure they spent 72 hours designing and building their doghouse.
We love their mission, what they do, and we love the opportunity to design and build a house.
They said all the hard work is worth it, knowing it'll make a difference in a pet's life.
It's great to have something that you actually have built, and just knowing that it's going to help a bunch of animals out there that really need the help.
In Scottsdale, Ty Brennan, Fox 10 News.
So I stand corrected. The houses over the top, if you just look at the houses themselves, right, but an awesome mission behind that housing projects, right? Coming up next, Move Over Coffee. Going to hear about some donuts now in the business of getting you awake and keeping you awake. I don't know what to think about this, to be honest with you. Your morning caffeine jolt doesn't have to mean a few rounds of coffee. Not anymore, anyway. Hostess, one of America's long-standing favorite snack companies, giving you caffeine on the run, no spill, and with a bite. And it's Boost Jumbo Donuts. Yeah, look at those. The Jumbo Donuts have as much caffeine as a cup of coffee. Hostess is releasing the caffeine munching treats in 2 flavors, as you see right there, chocolate mocha and caramel macchiato. Doug says, why not? I think, man, you gotta be careful with those though. If you have too many donuts just because you like donuts, I'm shaking. All right, 30 more minutes, news, weather, and sports coming your way.
While most of the sidewalks around the metro area are pretty clear, that doesn't mean that your chance of slipping and falling is zero. I'm Chris Warner with When That Slip and Fall Calls for Tylenol or a trip to the hospital.
I'm Matt Finn in Ottawa, Canada, where dozens, if not hundreds, of trucks remain and protesters are not moving, even after police warn them they could soon be arrested.
One person is dead after a fire in Neosho, Missouri. Newton County Sheriff says the fire happened at around 6 last night on Heron Road in Neosho. When crews put out the fire, they found the body of a woman in her 60s. Authorities have notified the family, but the sheriff has not released the victim's name to the public. Jurors have convicted a Neosho, Missouri man of tampering with a victim in a domestic assault case. Last June, John Martin Hamilton was in the Newton County Jail charged with felony domestic assault. Prosecutors say he called the victim from jail, offered her $500 to drop charges. Jury found him guilty of tampering after a one-day trial and just 35 minutes of deliberation. Going back to weather, we saw a mix of people getting a good deal of snow and ice. In other areas, didn't see that much. Regardless, wintry weather can still create a slippery situation if you're out walking. KOAM's Chris Warner has more on those hidden risks.
Sidewalks down here in Joplin are mostly clear, but there's still some patches of ice, and that means, despite how clear it looks, you could still manage to slip and fall. Reddingsville Fire Chief Steve Coates lays out the risks.
There's several different injuries that can take place, mostly to either the arms or the head, back of the head from the fall, depending on which direction the fall is, or ankles.
But when should you treat it at home versus going to the hospital?
If it's a situation where it doesn't feel too bad right now, and it starts hurting a little bit later, you may consider medical treatment. If within 48 hours the pain hasn't gone away, they probably ought to seek medical treatment.
Chief Coates says the most concerning situation is a head injury.
Any kind of head trauma where the brain has impacted the interior of the skull could put you into a situation where you have a concussion.
Chief Coates says if you hit your head, even if it doesn't hurt that much, you should seek medical attention immediately to rule out a more serious injury. He says there are some key symptoms to watch out for if you do hit your head.
They could feel nauseated, they could have a headache, they could feel really tired, hard to keep their eyes open.
There's a couple of simple ways to avoid a slip and fall in the wintry weather. The first, just stay home. But if you can't, take a walk on the grassy side.
Usually grass is more porous and the ice isn't smooth like it would be on like a sidewalk. And if you have the opportunity, you walk in the grass and lessen those opportunities to slip and fall.
In Joplin, Chris Warner, KOAM News.
Chief Coates says it's important to watch out for black ice, of course, on sidewalks. Even if there is just snow, it appears it's just snow, still take it slow because there could be ice hidden beneath that you can still slip on. Researchers in California are learning more about the long-term impact of brain injuries. They found that even a mild case can lead to cognitive impairment, cognitive decline, or both 1 year later compared to people who were not injured. A new study in the New England Journal of Medicine suggests gene therapy could provide a possible cure for sickle cell anemia. Researchers found patients who underwent the expensive treatment no longer had symptoms of the disease, but point out most patients with the condition live in Africa and India, where access to that health care is limited. There are growing signs that Canadian police are preparing to crack down on the Freedom Convoy, protesters in that, who have brought the capital to a standstill for more than 2 weeks now. Fox News correspondent Matt Finn has more from Ottawa, Canada.
Police are out in force here in the Canadian capital a day after handing out notices to the Freedom Convoy truckers to leave or face the consequences. Fences are now being put up around Parliament Hill, signaling what could be an upcoming crackdown on protesters who have occupied parts of Ottawa for almost 3 weeks. But the truckers say they're not going anywhere, calling the potential police action illegal and vowing to remain in the city until their demands are met.
I'm not voluntarily accepting their offer to contract. I'm going to put my arms around my fellow brethren, and we're going to sing "Oh Canada."
But that's not likely to happen soon. The government is digging in its heels, resisting calls to lift COVID restrictions, claiming the truckers are not only endangering public safety, but also costing jobs and money, accusing their leaders of deliberately hurting the economy.
After we saw the damage that was done to the Canadian economy, it was very clear that the people that organized those blockades knew exactly who they were harming and what they were doing.
People here in Ottawa say police have a difficult job ahead, trying to balance security with basic rights like free speech, but say they do not think the truckers will leave voluntarily.
I think a lot of them are prepared to face the fines, and because if they are doing illegal activity, then a fine should be expected. At the same time, though, if they're peaceful protests, I think they should have the right to do that.
And here in the capital, there are still dozens, if not hundreds, of trucks in the area, and the protesters say that tow trucks will ultimately refuse to remove them. In Ottawa, Canada, Matt Finn, Fox News.
A bit later, our nation's military helping out in a different way.
U.S. soldiers are battling the ongoing teacher shortage. I'm Ashley Strohmeyer, and I've got the details on their latest mission straight ahead.
Well, we started the day, meaning at midnight, near 60 degrees. We had scattered showers and thunderstorms, and then we dropped all morning long into the 20s. And of course, showers and thunderstorms went over to freezing rain and sleet and then snow for a good chunk of the region. Areas along and south of I-44, you didn't get much in the way of wintry weather. Most of it was along and north of Interstate 44. We were into the 20s most of the day, but now we're dropping, especially our northern counties. Look at the colors brightening up, or lighting up, getting brighter. But this is where that heavy track of snow is. So where you see the temperatures near 10 degrees, those are the areas that have 4, 5, 6 plus inches. And then where you don't have any snow on the ground, temperatures are hanging on near 20. It's going to be cold tonight, though. Farther north you go, the colder it's going to get. At least the winds are fairly calm. North winds at about 5 to 10. Currently outside sitting at 18. West winds at 3. Humidity is high, 81%. You can see our dry slot this morning, the back bands of light snow working through, and then everything heading out of here over the past few hours. In fact, the clouds have broken up, so we look pretty good. This system's racing off toward the east. Let's go west. Not a whole bunch going on. So that's our weather as we go into the next few days. We don't really even have a storm system to deal with until Monday of next week. All right, look at these overnight lows. We're going to be near zero where that heavier snowpack is. Southern counties, still cold. We'll dip down to about 12 or 14 degrees, but at least a lot better tomorrow. Most of us into lower 40s, 30s, northern counties. Here's your day planner for you. We're going to start at 9:34 by noon. High temp of 41. South winds at about 5 to 15. We drop back again tomorrow night, back into the mid-20s, so not as cold as what we are going to see tonight. And then Saturday looks pretty good. We go well into the 40s, 4 high, so we're going to do some serious melting over the next couple days. Sunday even better as we shoot into lower 60s during the afternoon. Next storm system rolls in on Monday. This could give us some scattered showers and thunderstorms late Monday. It pushes east, so I think we're fine on Tuesday. On Wednesday, we have a wave that tracks to our south, and then another wave comes out on Thursday that could give us some freezing rain, sleet, over to some snow. So we do have some more winter to still deal with as we go through the next few weeks. All right, let's go 9 tonight, 41 tomorrow, 46 Saturday, 63 on Sunday, near 70 by Monday, which is kind of crazy. And then back in the cellar, middle and late next week.
The roller coaster continues.
Yep, big hills, a lot of dips.
Yep, like Hetty, thank you. Coming up in sports, Pitt State men's track and field team making some history this week. Plus, it's senior night for the McCauley Warriors. Jacob Leonard has that and more after this break.
Vote now. Well, tonight is senior night for the McCauley Warriors. The Warriors face Thomas Jefferson this evening in their final home game of the season. Now in the girls' game, McCauley enters the night at 15-10 overall, trying to snap a 5-game losing skid. Check this out. McCauley senior Kaylee Teeter. She suffered a season-ending injury earlier this season, but here gets back on the floor and scores her final 2 points on senior night. She finishes third in program history with 1,383 points. To the action, another senior, Avery Emminger, collects the rebound and put back. Then Kennedy Dury. It's the kind of bounce you get on senior night. Warriors go to half up 21-10. The second half, Chloe Williamson scores and the foul. Back to Kennedy Dury. Easy 2 here. She scores 22 and moves into 4th on the McCauley all-time scoring list. McCauley sends the seniors out the right way, winning 50-27.
I never thought this moment would come where it'd be my last home game, and to do it with my best friends. It was a very humbling experience where I was just like, I'm never going to get this back. Even going on to college, I'm never going to have these type of teammates, and so I just want to cherish every moment. I wanted to cry the first quarter, just coming out and being like, this is my last time with my school behind me right now in the stands. in my home atmosphere. Yeah, it was tough putting it aside, but it also gave me fuel to, go out with a bang.
After the girls' game, the boys hit the floor at McCallie. It's a tough one for the Warriors facing the 17-6 Cavaliers. Thomas Jefferson gets it done over McCallie tonight, 59-46. Pittsburgh State and Missouri Southern basketball split a rivalry doubleheader on Wednesday night in Joplin. On the women's side, the Lions rolled by the Gorillas 80-65 for their 12th straight win. Maddie Stokes and Lacey Stokes both came up big for Southern. Maddie finished with a big double-double of 25 points and 13 rebounds. Lacey filled up the stat sheet once again with 22 points, 7 assists, and 5 rebounds. Now here she is on getting her first taste of the Pitt State rivalry game.
It was everything I thought it was going to be and more, honestly. It was super exciting, having that atmosphere of having a, rivalry. Like I said, it's just what you look forward to in college, the rivalry games and that atmosphere in your gym. I think that's the most we've had at a game all year, and it was just crazy. It really, fulfills that college experience that you look for.
I think it was huge. Having all our student athletes there was a big plus at the start of the ball game. They were excited about it, and then our regular crowd was here as well, so it made for a great atmosphere.
In the men's game last night, it was a slow start for Pittsburgh State, but they got it done. The Gorillas were down by as much as 12 in the first half. They turned it around to win 95-82. Bobby Arthur Williams had 11, Tyler Hawkins 18. RJ Lawrence finished with 21. But the story of the night is that guy right there, Magic Relaford. Relaford had his best game so far in a Pitt State uniform, finishing with a team-high 24 points. The Levesque County High School product was 5 for 9 from 3, 7 of 14 from the field. He also finished with 5 rebounds, 4 steals, and 3 assists. Well, this week has been a huge week for the Pitt State men's track and field team. Over the weekend, the Gorillas set 7 new school records, hosting the 7th annual Gorilla Indoor Classic. Now that includes sophomore Braylon Brewer and freshman LJ Kiner. Now, Brewer was named the MIAA Men's Track Athlete of the Week after setting a new school record in the 200 and breaking his own school record in the 400. Kiner was the league's Field Athlete of the Week after posting the top mark in Division II this season and breaking the school record in the triple jump. All of that, obviously awesome. Then the Gorillas climbed a few spots in the national rankings up to number 1 for the first time in program history.
We've been teeter-tottering around top 5 past few weeks. Finally got to the number 1 spot with this great weekend, but we always have that just the mentality of don't even think about it. We just got to keep going, act like we're not even in the top 10. So that's our mentality around it.
Me personally, I like us being number 1. I feel like we should have deserved the number 1 spot. But we putting it together is getting close to the time for championships and everything. So it's good. We're all coming together and pulling it all in. So I think it's cool.
And that's a look at sports. We're back with more news after this.
National Guard troops are proving they are always ready to answer the call, even if it takes them back to school. Fox News correspondent Ashley Strohmeyer has more on how these soldiers are helping during the teacher shortage.
I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of nervous because, a man in a uniform, but it was cool.
It's back to the classroom for dozens of New Mexico's National Guard troops as the men and women in uniform trade in mission briefs for lesson plans.
The governor called upon its Guard, both Air and Army, to step in and assist. We're citizen soldiers. We serve our community, and this is another way for us to help serve our community.
Soldiers are at the head of the class in 36 of New Mexico's 89 school districts, helping to fill much-needed substitute positions as many full-time teachers quarantine after testing positive for COVID-19. While the plan enforced by Governor Grisham has kept students engaged and inside the classroom, some educators argue sourcing substitute teachers from different fields is not helpful.
Having individuals in the classroom who have other duties and responsibilities outside of working with students, during some of these, difficult times, it doesn't help learning.
But the soldiers called to serve say they are willing and able after receiving the appropriate training.
I personally already had my certificates, which just kind of sped things along for me. But the other guardsmen, Air and Army, had to take classes and get certified and then have briefs.
The shortage in educators spans much farther than just New Mexico. A recent jobs report claims there are nearly 600,000 school employee positions open nationally. Ashley Strohmeyer, Fox News.
This week's list of what's new to the big screens, also at-home streaming when we come back. Big screen adventures, streaming scary movies, and more. Here's a look at what's new to new releases with Fox's Ashley Dvorkin.
There are places out there you can't find on any map.
New in theaters is game-to-screen adventure Uncharted with Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg.
This one I would compare to films like National Treasure, Tomb Raider, Indiana Jones.
You do this and you're back in the game.
Channing Tatum stars in and co-directs buddy comedy Dog.
He is tasked with escorting a trained military dog named Lulu down the Pacific coast in hopes of making it to a fellow soldier's funeral on time. Along the way, they drive each other completely crazy. They break a handful of laws. They narrowly evade death and learn to let their guards down.
Netflix has Texas Chainsaw Massacre, follow-up story to the 1974 original.
It's a bloody, campy slasher flick, and it is not for the faint of heart, I will say that. But again, you're watching Texas Chainsaw Massacre, so you know what you signed up for. It does take place 50 years later. Leatherface returns to traumatize a group of kids who've descended upon a ghost town in the hopes of reviving it for the next generation. Of course, Leatherface has different plans.
A scary movie in theaters, 19th century set, The Cursed.
It's got a mysteriously, possibly supernatural menace that threatens this small village. And then they bring in this pathologist who comes into the town to investigate. If you like supernatural horror, this one sneaks up on you, and it's actually a pretty good film.
Space Force isn't going anywhere.
In series, there's Space Force Season 2. Plus, Severance on Apple TV Plus, and The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel returns on Amazon Prime Video. In Hollywood, Ashley Dvorkin, Fox News.
And that's our time for tonight. Thanks so much for joining us. Going to leave you with video of cats in Italy for that country's National Cat Day. Dogs are better. Be safe. Do this all again tomorrow. See you then.